Hello, I'm Nicholas Saint-Erne from the Kingdom of Atenveldt and known as Nicholas de Navarre, and this is another medieval cooking challenge. Today is for Hippocras, which is a spiced wine. This comes from the book The Goodman of Paris, originally written in French, called Le Ménagier de Paris in 1393. The recipe for Hippocras is using a regular red wine, but then you spice the wine to make it very flavorful, and it's usually served hot. To make powdered Hippocras, take a quarter of very fine cinnamon selected by tasting it, and half a quarter of fine flower of cinnamon, an ounce of selected string ginger, fine and white, and an ounce of grain of paradise, a sixth of nutmeg and galangal together, and bray them all together. When you would make your Hippocras, take a good half ounce of this powder and 2/4 of sugar and mix them with a quart of wine. Note that the powder and sugar mixed together is the Duke's powder. And then the important thing about this is that the sugar and cinnamon flavors ought to predominate.
For this recipe, I used a gallon of Burgundy wine, 2 tablespoons of ground cinnamon, and a tablespoon each of ginger, nutmeg, and allspice. The allspice was whole, so I had to grind it up into a powder. You can use other spices as well and grind them if they're in larger pieces into a powder. These were all mixed together. The allspice, the ginger, the nutmeg, and 2 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. And stirred to make a nice blend. The wine was poured into a pot on the stove and brought to a simmer, but do not boil the wine. It's important to pour yourself a glass of wine while you're making this in order to leave room for putting the wine back into the bottle after you've added the sugar and spices. The spice mix goes into a cloth bag, like a tea bag, so it could be soaked into the wine while the wine is heated. Let this simmer for about 20 to 30 minutes, and while it's hot, add the sugar. I used about 2 cups of sugar for a gallon of wine. Stir the sugar to make sure it dissolves. After about 20 minutes, this can be poured through a funnel back into the original bottle. You should taste it to be sure it is sweet enough for your taste, adding more sugar as necessary.
So I've got my Hippocras made, and I've warmed it up, and we will serve it hot. The cinnamon definitely is predominant. It's sweet, but you can still taste the spices, and when it's hot, the spice flavors really predominate, come out strong. Hippocras is a great drink, especially around the holidays in the winter. I make it a lot, and it is a delicious tasting drink. I've been making Hippocras for a long time, but I've been using a different recipe than the one from the Ménagier. And the one I use is called Smoking Bishop. And it's very similar to the Hippocras recipe, but it also includes orange rind when you're cooking it, and the juice of oranges, which gives it a sweet flavor. and is sort of the basis of the Spanish sangria, which is a fruit-flavored wine. The Smoking Bishop is a great drink that is also fairly old. It probably not all the way back to the Middle Ages, but it was referenced in the Christmas Carol. After Scrooge had his transition into his good self, he offers his clerk a raise, Bob Cratchit, and tells him that "A Merry Christmas, Bob," said Scrooge with an earnestness that could not be mistaken as he clapped him on the back. "A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavor to assist your struggling family, and we'll discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of Smoking Bishop, Bob." And so there they have their Smoking Bishop, named because of the red color like a bishop's robe, and the smoking because it is served hot and it does have steam out of it. So whether you use the original Hippocras recipe, named after Hippocrates, the father of medicine, because this was considered to be medicine, not just a beverage because of the spices that was good for you, or if you use some of the other recipes from all around the world, such as the Smoking Bishop from England, this is one of the best beverages, and I highly recommend you try making some of these spiced wines. Thank you for watching.